right, we're here with another episode with, if you don't mind my saying, you really are one of my heroes.
Oh, thank you, Greg.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that.
You're
That's
welcome.
nice of you to say.
We're here with Michael Pritchard. Did I pronounce your last
Yeah,
name correctly?
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely right.
So, where to begin? Is there anything on your mind that...
No, man, my mind's like a blank slate all the time. I tell all the kids, life is like a giant canvas. Throw a bunch of paint on it, like a shirt. It's perfect. Be an artist. Be art.
Let me ask you this
Anything,
then.
yeah.
On your life travel,
Yeah.
have... I just saw Pee Wee Herman's new movie on Netflix.
Yeah, I've not seen it. Yeah.
It's really good if you like
okay.
if you like
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And one of the things, this has come up a lot in stories. At the
Yeah.
very end, in essence, he faces himself as the devil.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
And and I've seen that scenario come up a lot. Where,
Sure.
you know, the final challenge is
You have to look at yourself in the mirror.
right,
To yourself, yeah.
right. So, have you seen yourself in the mirror?
Always, yeah. I've been seeing myself in the mirror for many, many years now. I've been in a long time in recovery, and that's the first thing you do. You have to take a long look. There's a really wonderful line that says by Oscar Wilde, "Be yourself, everyone else is taken." Right? And so I learned a long time ago to be myself and to be fearless in being myself. And I went to the University of You, and inside, I guess the best way to describe that is I tell children, don't overstand, understand. And a kid raised his hand and said, "Don't you think we need to understand as well?" And I went, wow, what a line. So if you understand yourself, then you're on a roll. And you understand yourself and you understand yourself, you're good. And I am.
What is that process of understanding?
Well, I mean, I meditate, I pray, I spend a lot of time in prayer and spirituality and nature. I'm extremely grateful. I'm a person of great gratitude and a servant's heart. I do everything I can to help make things a little bit more nurturing and comfortable for others. I take time for myself to be generous to myself. I get a lot of downtime. I get away from it all. I pour a lot of energy out when I'm performing. Like yesterday, I was in front of children, kindergarten through 7th grade, and pouring out lots of energy and making them laugh and then getting them up to share their pain and sorrows. If you want to help understand life, listen to sorrows. Aeschylus said, with every drop of pain on the human heart, wisdom grows. And so for all these years, I've sat all across America, all around the world, listening to people's pain. It makes you wiser, makes you more understanding of life. And the more you listen to people's sorrows and pains and sufferings and the guilt that they might have attached or the fears that they have, the wiser you grow in how to help others through it.
Do you think pain is the only way for wisdom?
No, I mean, there's a lot of ingratitude. There's a lot of wisdom in gratitude. You know, that's being, you know, I call it being grateful, not hateful, and thankful and tranquil. Got calm, dot calm. You know, find that thing that's inside you, that center. You're your own sanctuary. You're your own oasis. You know, you be looking around for the external oasis, but that's inside you. And if you don't find that, you're not going to make it through without a lot of conflict. And so you have to be completely centered, focused, and at peace within yourself. But that's the key. For me, I am. I can do all this work, you know, healing people through being able to have the ability to be introspective enough to be grateful that I have all that I have, right? And that's what part of being a healer is. Just talked to this to my son who's a doctor. You know, there's a book out by Tel Gawande. Please buy that book, folks. It is called Being Mortal, and it's about his conflict, looking at having to let go of his father in life, although he was a healer. And death is a doorway. You know, that's all. It's just a doorway. Everybody's afraid of it, and fear is the little dark room where negatives are developed. Everybody's afraid. Oh no, you know. But then, if you ever have been with, not too long ago, I had a big, beautiful yellow lab hit on the highway, and I spent time with it as it transitioned. And the horns were beeping, people were screaming filthiest language at me as I'm laying there with a dying Labrador. Big, beautiful blonde Labrador. Be a nice dog, right? Odie. And I just sat there and kept it quiet until it transitioned. And this big fireman walks up, and big handlebar mustache. He looked like Ben Johnson from the Raiders. And he just burst into tears looking at me. Right? And he's staring at me, you know, and then he walked back and he goes, I'm going to get a blanket. I go, okay, sure, that'd be great. So we wrap him up, we put him on the back of the fire truck, and they're going to take him over and where he'll be, you know, probably cremated. And I said, thanks. I said, got any isopropyl? So I washed my hands off because the dog was bloody. And there was a little girl who hit him who was a texter. And there was not a lot of compassion or remorse in her. She was looking for somebody to blame that the dog wasn't on a leash, right? And so, you know, I said, well, okay, this is an accident. This is the dog's. We can just say that this is the dog's fault, not your fault. But I go, here's what you need to know. That somewhere, this dog's tail would wag when somebody would come home and they were lonely or they were sad and that dog was there for them. So this is a living being thing. And she looked at me and she goes, are you like some kind of like guru teacher or whatever? And I was like, kind of, like a guru teacher or whatever. And the fireman is like standing there and he goes, I just got to tell you something. I don't even know who you are, but I got to tell you, I hope you're around when I die. I started laughing. I go, well, let's hope not, pal. You know, I know what he's saying. What he's saying is, you want to, when you're dying, you want to be comforted and nurtured, and that's the thing. When I work in hospice now, I've noticed that dying people are a lot like preschoolers again. They want to be nurtured, they want to be read to, they want to be treated softly and gently. They want their hair stroked, their feet massaged. They just want to be treated good. And they're seniors, a lot of them, right? And they're trying to figure it all out. And so one of the great things is we all want that. We want in life somebody to be with us. When I was up at St. Vincent's, there was an orphan boy there. And I came around the corner and he goes, man, can I talk to you? I go, sure. And he goes, no, but I mean like privately. I go, sure. And he goes, no, I mean like nobody else around. And I go, sure. I go, yeah, wherever you want. So we walked around the corner to Father Dave Giorso's office, and I sat there and I said, what do you need? And he goes, nothing. I go, you said you wanted to talk to me. You said you wanted to talk to me. He goes, no, I just really wanted to just be with you. And that's, you know, for me, Greg, that's what we all want. We all want to have somebody to be with us. And here's a kid who's got no mom, no dad, no family, and he just needs somebody to be with him. And we all want that, because we could all be out there in the middle of the world lonely.
Yeah.
And there isn't a person that hasn't had that loneliness, right?
Yep.
So and if you're wise, you are that person. Right?
There's the
the key. You're that person that everybody wants to be with. And how do you form yourself? How do you create yourself? I remember I was on a native reservation. I said, well, we find ourselves. And the elderly shaman lady walked up and she goes, you are totally wrong, Mike. We do not find ourselves. We create ourselves. And I went, whoa, dude. Keanu Reeves shot. Whoa, dude, that was like profound. But if you create yourself to be that person for others, that people want to be with you, we call that friendship, relationship, partnership. We call that healer, nurturer, comforter. We call that guru. We call that shepherd. We call that priest, rabbi. We call that shaman. We call it whatever it takes to become that for somebody. That's a good journey.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have I've noticed that becomes more difficult the more intimate a relationship is.
You know what? I mean, if you're not at that intimate level, it's not going to work. I mean, if you haven't removed that wall, that's a spiritual firewall. If you don't have that intimacy, you're not going to work. You know, you have to have that. You have to be able to talk to people. You look to, I mean, for me, there's nothing more intimate than helping somebody die. That's even more powerful than sex. It really is, because they're leaving. They're not going to be there. Now, somebody who's getting healed through a sex act or making love with somebody, you got a second chance, or you screw that up, you know, somebody will give you a second chance. Dying,
that's true.
You got one shot.
That curtain's
You
coming
better
down.
you better be intimate. You better look in their eyes, and you better say things. This is what I say to them all the time. Man, a guy the other day goes, "You know what I do? I spend all my damn time hiring lawyers I hate to defend me against family members I hate more." I go, wow, there's a swell life. Well lived, gathered all that money to amass and give it. Then I had another guy the other day, and he says, "You know what? I spent my entire life, amassing a fortune, and I bought a $43,000 watch that couldn't tell me what time it was in my life." Dude, seriously. And then the third one was an elderly lady. She's a wealthy heiress. And I was sitting there looking at her. I said, she goes, "Big Mike, don't look in the hallway. See if them vultures are out there getting ready for trick or treat." And I go, "Who are the vultures?" She goes, "My relatives. They're here for trick or treat. They want me to give them some. I haven't seen them in 17 years. Now they want something because I'm dying." And she's a wealthy woman. I said, "It must be awfully lonely to be you." And she goes, "You trying to hurt my feelings?" I go, "No. I'm just making a remark." I go, "Man, that's a pretty lonely place you're at." And I said, "I'm glad I'm with you, because I don't want you to feel lonely." I go, "Maybe here's the thing. See, I tell her I unconditionally love people. I'm not judging you. Mother Teresa's line is, if you judge people, you'll never have time to learn to love them." And I said, "You know, throughout your whole life, you had so much money. You looked down your nose at me and felt sorry for me. And now you're dying, and you ain't got a friend in the world or somebody to love you, except for me. And I'm feeling sorry for you."
Have you met any really wealthy people that were happy and
Oh, yeah,
were
tons.
good? And, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So money's not the root of all evil.
No, money is not the root of all evil, but the line is, at the end of the chess game, the pawn and the king go back in the same box. Right? No matter how rich and powerful you are, how important you get to be, on the day you die, the size of your funeral still pretty much depends on the weather that day. You know, people spend time sitting around saying, "I got this and I got that." I know a lot of wealthy people are very happy, and when they transition out, they're very happy because they'll be able to philanthropically bestow great amounts of amassed wealth through inheritance or hard work to make things better in the world. And you have to ask them, what's it going to be, bitter or better, wine or shine, complain or gain? And if you're bitter about dying, you miss the point of your life.
Yeah.
You know, because life ain't fair. Fair is where you get cotton candy and ride a big wheel. You know, life ain't logical. If it was logical, men would ride side saddle.
Good point.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you do have a spiritual belief.
Oh yeah, bunches of them.
So, any thoughts on why this physical reality was created in such a dysfunctional manner?
Well, no, I don't think it's a dysfunctional manner. I think you're in kindergarten here. This is a giant cartoon show, a hologram, to teach you how to be a little bit more loving and unconditionally. And if you fail, you'll be coming back. See you again. You drop the course, dude. You got to come back. You got to go to summer school. Right? I know, it's perfect for you. You got to go to summer school, dude. Oh no, I don't want to come back. I'm going to be in Russia. I'm going to be in a gulag. Yeah, oh, too bad. You know, I mean, get it or don't get it. I mean, the key here is, you know, Dickens, you know, who was a very brilliant man and described things in great detail in spiritual terms. It was very brilliant. Two of my favorite lines of Dickens, you know, one was, you know, describing Scrooge. And you see a lot of these men in the city of San Francisco and Marin and San Mateo and wealthy places, men and women who've missed the point of it all. And they think it's about amassing great amounts of wealth. And the line he was describing Scrooge before he woke up, he says, he was a clutching, grasping, wheezing skinflint. But Scrooge, poor Scrooge, was as solitary as an oyster in his pain. And you see those men, you know, they're open wounds spilling on other people. They're depleted of all love, but they have everything that could make you wealthy. And it says, beware the change of fortune in life. Yeah. Right? What are you attached to? So if it's external validation, you missed the point. But when Scrooge wakes up in that morning, he says, oh my gosh, it's still Christmas. I still have a chance to make it all right. I will go help the Cratchits, you know? And it says he was as good a man, as good a master as the good old city knew. And it was said of him, Scrooge, that he knew how to keep Christmas well. Well, you know, that's in your heart.
Yes. I find the challenge, though, in that story. I love that story. One of my favorites.
Redemption, right?
Right.
Resurrection.
And one of my favorite lines from it is, mankind was my business.
Yeah, right.
That should have been when he's talking to Marley's ghost.
Right.
Marley says.
Well, then you go to the line in Nicholas Nickleby, because what heals you, okay, is relationships. And this is what they just talked about in the Harvard study by Dr. What the heck's his name? Wilgrand, I think. And he just did a 75-year study. And they studied poor children from Boston as well as the wealthy men from Harvard. And what he found out was that it's relationships. And in Nicholas Nickleby, he says, we come to know at the end of all time, it's not always those that we share our blood with that become our family, but those that we might give our blood for that become our family. And so over my years, you know, with all the cops and the firemen and all the military folks and the nurses and teachers that I have shared my great life with, and including my family and wanting my kids to know that, it's the people with the servants' hearts that triumph in life, that have relationships, that nurture them, that when you're dying, there's a crowd of people standing around you. And they're going to miss you, but they'll see you again, and they know it. And that is what Dickens was talking about in that. So you have to create that, again, like the lady said. You create yourself, but you also create the family that is well around you, that nurtures you, that sustains you, that comforts you, that is compassionate towards you. And that's the key. The rest of the stuff is a cartoon show.
But that's still external. The people there at your
No, that's internal. They're there for friendship, relationships, partnerships. They're there for compassion. That's completely internalized.
So you're not putting emphasis on the bodies themselves. You're putting emphasis on what drew the bodies to.
I was telling somebody the other day, when you hear some of the stuff, I said, we don't need separation of church and state. We need separation of church and hate. Right? Religion is for people afraid of going to hell, and spirituality is for people who've already been there.
So what tools do you have for instances like you on the side of the road with the dog and all this chaos is getting berated at you, a barrage of human madness?
Yes. What
tools do you have to hold the light?
Well, calm is one thing. You don't react to their sickness, right? That's the key, because they're the crazy ones. They've got issues, like this guy came by. We were all laughing really heartily, and he walked by, and one of the men said, "Wow, there's an open wound going out to spill all over everyone." And that would be Scrooge walking by, you know. "Have they no poorhouses? Have they no..." And so you're like sitting going, "Geez, Ebenezer, man, lighten up, dude. I mean, like, you got everything you could want, and you're miserable." Right? And here's the interesting part. He didn't know he was miserable. He missed the relationship with the girl who loved him. He missed the relationship with, and this was a constant theme in Dickens' movie, in Dickens' books. In Nicholas Nickleby, the uncle who was a betrayal and a sociopath, missed the relationship with his girlfriend, like Scrooge did, and with the son, who he punished and ruthlessly treated cruelly and ignored and abused. And it's later on when he takes his life because he's so shamed. You know, he knows that he killed literally the one thing that he was supposed to love, his girlfriend's child, his son. So when you see this, and this is what you know, Dickens was ironically very brilliant guy. I mean, even for the 17 and 1800s, he understood life. So what you want to do is, he's almost a spiritual, he's like another prophet. He's like a Saint Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. He's telling you, here's the gospel. Here's the gospel. And the gospel is that you're sitting with, a guy, and he's angry. He's got pancreatic cancer. I was telling a story the other day. And he's raging at everybody in the hospice, and nobody spends time to unburden him. So I walk in and I asked him, I said, "Why are you so angry all the time?" Because he's got pancreatic cancer. And then out of nowhere, he triggers. Don't ask me why, Greg. I have no idea why he chose to unburden with me. And he says, "My little son was run over by a propeller in Lake Berryessa, and he was chopped up into a million pieces, and I had to take his body and put it into the boat. And then my wife left me, and then I never remarried, and I've always had to deal with that. My only child, 5 years." And, and the nurse who had been condemning him, she had run out of the room, right? And, and so then now I understand, right? Unaddressed grief turns to anger, the anger to rage, the rage to violence. Violence has two directions, outwards towards others and inwards towards the self, right?
Yeah.
So if you're wise, really wise, brain wise, heart smart, you're sitting there and you're unburdening. Somebody's giving you the confession. And they need to unburden before they transition over. That guy went over so easy 3 days later because he had laid the bag of rocks down.
Yeah.
Right?
And there was someone there to hear him.
Well, yeah. You got to have somebody here to hear it. If a tree falls in a forest, right? Well,
right.
If a confession is given in a hospice and nobody hears it, is it a confession? Is it an unburdening? If you're talking into your pillow, it's not going to work. So you got to have some moronic, big, goofy guy sitting there listening to you.
Yeah.
I qualify.
That's one of the books that I really appreciated reading was A Course in Miracles.
Sure. John Polsky's great guy.
And one of the things that I kind of love about it is God, for lack of a better word, the creative essence, is saying, you didn't make a mistake.
Right.
There is no sin. It just, whatever you are imagining, it's not there.
It's not there. Well, there is no struggle between the light and the dark. When the light arrives, the dark is gone. Right? So eliminate the darkness. That's what I loved about the little girl. I said, you don't have to blow someone else's candle out to make sure yours shines brighter. This little girl up in Hamilton goes, "Mr. Mike, if you do go around blowing out other people's candle and bullying people, pretty soon you'll be the one in the darkness." I went, wow. Well, the darkness, of course, is just the loneliness of you, right? You're all alone.
Do you still come up to your darkness, or is darkness still in existence?
No, I have no. Well, you know what it is if you truly come to the accommodation that you really like yourself, you're never in the darkness because you're always a light bearer. And if you're a light bearer, you're not afraid of the dark. And then it goes back to that line: fear is the little dark room where negatives are developed, right? And so if you see that, and you see all these fearful people, they just don't like themselves and they don't want to be alone. Hello? And so if you like yourself, you don't mind being alone. In fact, I find it, and it was like, yeah, dude, you're self-absorbed. You could drown. How many of you does it take to screw in a light bulb? One, I stand still and the world revolves around me. Well, that's not the case. The case is this: loving yourself, nurturing yourself, compassion, because you could overextend yourself. And anybody who's a healer can do that. What's the difference between a codependent and a zombie? Eventually a zombie will move on. So you have to take care of you, and part of taking you is alone time. I noticed that about, all my friends who are great healers. They had to have that alone time. You have to get that downtime. I always consider it. People looked at me. I said, it used to remind me of me and watching Maxwell Smart. There was a robot on there called Jaime the Robot, and he would just shut down and go, well, I said, that's me. Man, I'm the Energizer Bunny, and then all of a sudden when I shut down, people are going, are you okay? Are you okay? My kids, my wife, everybody's, are you okay? And I'm going, hey, feel just swell. I'm good. I don't want to spend a lot of energy. I don't even want to talk, But I actually feel good. I mean, I feel content and happy, and like all the energy that I expended was really well worth it.
In my life, with my 3 children and my wife, it comes up a critical element, where I'm criticized.
Sure.
Foibles are pointed out.
Right, sure.
Do you still have that in your life?
Where I get criticized and
by the ones closest to you.
Well, you can have that from everybody. Even your closest friends, they have to keep you humble. You cannot, that was one of my favorite lines of Robin. He and I were on a radio show, made me burst out laughing. He goes, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. And he goes, this is why Jesus had no wife. Where were you, Jesus? Cana with all your friends, all of them making a little wine for your mom and the rest of them? What about me? How about a little sweeping miracle, Jesus? Yeah, how about helping out around the house? A little dusting miracle. And I was howling laughing. Because, this was him as well. You're going out, you're saving the world, you're helping everybody, and you come home and you're like, oh yeah, you're home, you. And I remember one of my favorite moments. It was hilarious. My kids were all standing. I was playing with a baby next to us. And our whole family, there's like 12 people sitting around at a big table, and this dad leans in, and because I've been playing with this little baby son, and the kid's laughing really hard, and the dad's just so happy. And I'm making every stupid noise, and my whole family's eating dinner, and I keep playing with the baby, and I'm annoying everybody. I don't care, because it's me having fun. That's my deal. And all of a sudden, the guy goes, hey, your dad's the funniest guy in the whole world. I can't believe it. That must be such a great... The whole family just stares at him. Just stares at him like, I hate you, mister. And he goes, oh. And I start laughing, like, just what you done. I'm like laughing. I go, now you understand. And I go, a prophet's never appreciated in his own. Come on. I am great. And everybody goes, yeah. Okay, Gandhi. All right, Martin Luther King. Oh, Mother Teresa, everything. Come on. If you don't have that.
That's a good,
right?
Yeah.
At some point, all the other nuns are like, why do you get all the attention, Mother Teresa? What are you talking about? Oh, you're always in the paper. You know that. All right. And wait, I'm trying to make things right. Yeah, sure.
You've hardly been here the last month.
You weren't even here wiping rear ends and taking care of it, but you're in the press all the time. Mother Teresa does. I'm like, gee, so, and everybody's going, well, that's just jealousy. No, it isn't. That's just human. And everybody needs to be shepherded by the sheepdog, because no matter how smart we think we are, we're all still sheep. and we have one giant shepherd, and that's the light. Head towards the light, face into the wind.
All right, so this might be too personal. And,
Go ahead.
Your recent heart attack, do you feel like that was a lesson in something you weren't listening to, and so it had to
No, actually not. I
surreal.
I thought it was like the greatest gift I ever got. Everybody thought, "Oh, you're going to get depressed. You're going to get sad." I had never been so happy.
No, what
I was exhausted. I needed rest.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah. Was it a message you needed to hear that you weren't getting in other ways? So it's like,
I will tell you this: you get what comes your way, and I had just taken care of 3 dying people who were close friends, including my brother. And I tell everybody I could name the 3 plugs. Robin Williams, my brother John, and Bernie Shaw. And he was a policeman who married Patricia Hearst. And all 3 of them died within a very brief period of time. And, I grieved all of them. I helped everybody grieve. And, was I taking care of myself enough? Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think that my body just needed rest because I'd done all this. And then I got it. And then I was so grateful. I mean, because I was laughing. People think, "Oh, you'll be so depressed. Everybody who has heart surgery just breaks down and they just get so depressed." And I was like, no. Because I was laughing. I mean, I remember the 2 young girls that were taking care of me, Filipino girls, they were making me walk. And one of them goes, "Wait a minute, Mr. Mike, we've got to tighten that robe up in the back. Nobody should have to see that." And the other one goes, "Except for maybe us." And I'm like, "Oh, take me back to my bed. I gotta laugh. Stop it. I hate you both." And the doctor asked me, he goes, "So are you okay? Do you have any questions?" I go, "Yeah, how do you get your pie crust so flaky?" I mean, if you're going through life afraid of death, if you're going through your life thinking everything's going to be a sign to make you feel, how you gonna make it?
Yeah.
How you gonna make it, right? I think, like, when I tell kids what I do is I'm the flagman on the highway. And I saw a flagman on the highway waving, going, hey, slow down. You're 66. You're not 32. Right? So, when I talk to the kids, I always tell them, I said, here's the thing. If you blow past me at 90 miles an hour, and I'm the flagman on the highway, and you're too uninterested into listening to what I'm going to tell you, and what I'm going to tell you is the bridge is washed out and there's a 180-foot drop, you're going to die. But you're so preoccupied with how cool your car looks and how cool you are, you're just going to just roll your eyes and keep driving. I have to still be there because there's other people who will pull in and listen to the message. My job. So I think God is the flagman on the highway, and he gives you a health benefit. It's not a scare, it's a benefit. And so I got to swim in my pool all summer long. I was in heaven. I was rested up, ready to go, and my first gig back, ironically, was to take care of a little girl who was murdered in Santa Cruz by a 15-year-old boy. And the whole town's grieving. Now you have to picture this moment now, Greg. I'm going to go talk to a whole town that's filled with grief after a big grief-filled heart attack. And so I get angry. I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to see if I assume that that's the case, that it's, "Oh, look at this," and then the next thing back up is this. What the heck is that about? So, yeah, I had a conversation with my beloved creator, the light, and I said, "Hey, Father, Mother, Son, what up? My first thing back is a 8-year-old child slaughtered, murdered. Come on, the whole town's upset." And I sat down and I go, "I just don't get that." I go, "Why would that be the first thing back? Couldn't I have some preschool kids to talk to first?" Well, a couple sat down 2 minutes later and said, "Can we talk to you? Here's a check for $25,000. Go buy yourself a new car." I burst into tears. I said, well, I don't have words. And they said, you don't need words. What you do is important. And I got back in my clunker car and I go, that was kind of your way of telling me to just shut up, right? Like, what am I whining about, right? I got it. And that's the key. So if you have a relationship with the Creator, like you have a relationship with the people you nurture at hospice, like you have a relationship with your family and friends, you know, there's a sense of humor involved. God will shepherd you, the light, whatever you call that, your higher power to be, will help you arrive at some things. And that for me was like a hilarious moment. And then, you know, I mean, yeah, it was absolutely. And it happens instantaneously when you let the light crack. And it's like the cosmic egg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you crack the egg, the light starts to stream in and out.
I like that Leonard Cohen line. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. That's how the light gets in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how the light gets in. The egg cracks. Well, I came home and it was even funnier. I was turtling around like a big whale in the pool, swimming. My daughter and wife came home and they had both worked on their feet all day long and they were crabby Appleton and about a bad day. And then I said, well, I got some good news today. And they said, what good news did you get? I said, well, you should go get this envelope. And my daughter, she starts cursing. She goes, I'm on my feet all day long and somebody gives you a check for $25,000 while you're turtling around in the pool. Don't you be happy for me, honey. Right? And so you have to laugh. It's called family life.
Yeah. So family life is what it is.
It is what it is. And, you know, sometimes it's joyous. Sometimes it's troublesome. Sometimes it is what it is. It's a challenge. But, you know, you're always going to have, there's no place where you won't find criticism from somebody trying to explain to you that you're not all that you think you are, and how important you are is not as, you know. There's Elie Wiesel talked about that in Messenger of God when Moses was, the Lord said unto Moses, you must now die. And he said, I can't. Who would lead Israel? And he says, well, then you may live and Israel will die. And so he says, well, I guess I'll have to die. And he said, yeah. He says, go with your brother up to the mountain, Aaron, and lay down. And Moses laid down on the side of the mountain on a slab. And he said, and close your eyes and put your hands across your chest. And Moses closed his eyes and put his hands across. And the Lord kissed Moses on the lips, and his spirit was swept away into eternity. And the people that were buried in the mountains thought he was buried in the mountains, and the people that were buried in the valleys thought he was buried in the valleys. But the truth is, he was buried into the hearts and minds of people that understand no one human, no leader is more important than all.
Yeah.
Simple. Now, when I read that, I was at night, and I poked my wife to wake her up, and I said, I think I know how I want to die. So...
Yeah. What keeps coming up for me right now is that that's the truth. And my hope is that we all learn that we are the bright light. So the hope is to open the consciousness of all, so that all knows it is all.
Well, if you're operating on a angelic vibration, G.K. Chesterton said the reason angels fly is because they take things lightly. Most people don't understand that, you know, if you're taking this seriously, you missed the point of it, because this is not, I mean, if you know, most comedians where everybody's afraid of Hitler, everybody was afraid of Hitler. Then you have Mel Brooks. Springtime for Hitler in Germany.
Or Charles Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin, or the Three Stooges playing Mo Hailstone, right? Yeah. And so, you know, they can withstand everything but mockery and satire, right? So, I mean, right now, Donald Trump is hilarious to me. I mean, he's like, you watch how they talk about him, how he's the giant orange yam. He is Vanilla Isis. He is one of them calls him El Donaldo Maximus. So, the best part of Donald is that he takes himself seriously. He actually.
God, does he really? Do you think so?
Well, yes, of course. He takes himself seriously. He believes of himself to be a great leader, and that's what happens. And if you and that paranoid behavior, when Stalin ordered 17,000 people murdered, and he yells at Beria, and this is where leaders get to, the paranoia, the insanity, the fear.
Right, yeah.
He says, Beria, wait. He goes, I want all 17,000 of these people from my government executed. And Beria says, yes, sir. And he starts to walk out. And he goes, wait, Beria, trust no one. And then he starts to walk out again. And he goes, wait, not even yourself. I mean, if you've ever heard a better comedy line, trust no one, not even yourself. That's like something out of a Groucho Marx line, right? Yeah. So that level of paranoia, that level of fear is, if it doesn't become laughable to you, becomes, and do I know there's suffering in the world? Do I know that people die? Do I know that people, yes, of course. And I see the suffering, and I see the sorrow, and I see the pain. But that doesn't mean that I have to dwell in it, because I believe in the power of resurrection. I believe in the power of another life. I believe in the power of the spiritual transition. And it would be real simple to explain it to you with one word: butterfly. The cocoon, right? The little butterfly is in there and it's fighting and gets out, and then all of a sudden it's a beautiful butterfly flying over a garden filled with a fragrant meadow, and you're like sitting there going, a little while ago this thing was just an ugly little caterpillar. Well, if God does that for the caterpillar, what's he going to do for us?
Yeah. I'm with you.
I know you are.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's a good life.
Oh yeah. Well, it's an amazing life. And I mean, if you just, if you're afraid of seeing suffering, and you should only be afraid of suffering if you're not doing anything about it. Dr. Martin Luther King said, there'll come a time in your life when you can do the right thing or look the other way. If you look the other way, you're already dead. You'll go on breathing to the end of your days, but you'll already be dead inside yourself. Right? Yeah. And I tell children, if you do not know, it is bad, but if you do not want to know, it is worse. And then you remember that line from To Kill a Mockingbird. Daddy, why is it up to us in this small town to stand up against hate and ignorance? Well, Scout, said Atticus, you come to learn. It's not how you come to learn to live with other people that's important, but how you come to learn to live with yourself that's important. That's the key. If you're okay with inside yourself, and your spirit is righteous, and that you've done everything you can to alleviate suffering, and you didn't look away, and you didn't not notice, and you didn't not feed the hungry and house the homeless and visit the people that were in prison, and go to see the people that were sick, which is what I do all the time, you're not going to like yourself much, I mean, I'm not saying you got to spend all your time taking care of everybody else, but in taking care of other people, you really truly are taking care of yourself, because you're so grateful for your life, the gift of it.
And you've said one of your tools is to heal yourself, the time to yourself.
Well, that's what the guy said in the relationship movie. I thought it was really funny. And Waldringer, that's his name, Dr. Waldringer. It's a 6-minute film, and it was really good because he says, they did the study, a 75-year study of Harvard people, and all the people who were poor kept saying, why do they want to know about us? We're so uninteresting. We're so boring. Our lives are so tedious. And then showing you what egos are built at Ivy League schools. The doctor says, not one person from Harvard said that.
I heard this.
Right?
Yeah.
And what he's telling you is, you know, ego is in some ways extremely good because you're thinking, I am an important person and I can make a difference. Now, if you're a solutioneer, if you're helping other people, that's good. If you're a person who's amassing a great fortune for yourself and just you and your friends and family, and you become greedy and indifferent and dispassionate in the ways, you will be taught the hard way. In other words, you know, people don't like to hear the truth, but the truth is this. Picture this. Ronald Reagan put 100,000 homeless people and mentally ill people on the street. And then he wound up for 9 years with Alzheimer's, suffering the indignity of fading in and out of lucidity inside his own spirit.
All right, so I hear you saying there's a direct correlation.
Well, I mean, it's not a punishment.
No.
It's more or less an awakening. You know, I promise you that Ronald Reagan, in some of the lucid moments when he had dementia, was sitting there going, "What have I done?"
I hope so. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you got to picture this. You know, just set historical Jesus aside, okay? And I'm not talking religious Jesus, just historical Jesus. Historical Jesus was never, ever in medical school, and they called him a healer, and he allegedly got people up and walking and healed them. He healed a guy who had a wounded ear from one of his men cutting his ear off. He got people to walk. He had a friend get up and rise up from the dead, right? That's just historical Jesus written about in the books, not the religious figure. And he was called Rabboni, but he never had any formal education. I mean, you didn't hear about him going to any rabbinical schools. You know, he didn't go and teach and learn the scriptures at the thing, but he learned it. He was self-taught. But they called him Rabbi. He struck fear into the hearts and minds of all these kings, and because you have to teach people to hate to gather a gang or an army. You have to want to go kill people. So Herod and Pilate, you have to gather people to hate, right? And he was teaching compassion and love and acceptance and forgiveness. So they were afraid of him. Like how are we going to gather people to fight for us against, Rome, or for us to conquer the Jews here, unless we can teach them to hate? These are the enemy. And Jesus says, no, there are no enemies. The enemy is you, right? So, and then the next thing is he gets beaten to death, in front of his own mother, hung on a cross. Guy on the left starts yelling at him, trash talking him, and the guy in the right goes, man, I believe who you are. I mean, I can't believe you're forgiving everybody for doing this to you. They just beat you for hours on end, made you carry a hunk of lumber up here, banged you into a cross, and I'm here with you, and you're saying, forgive them. Whoa, right? So he forgave people. And then when he gave up his spirit, and he whether he was resurrected or not is not as important as this. A very wealthy man looked at him and said, man, I'm going to give him my tomb. And so he went down, and he still to this day lives in the hearts and minds of people that believe that compassion is the way to live your life. Now, whether he's a religious figure or he's God, whether he's the Messiah, who knows? But here's what I could tell you right now. If you want a role model,
that's a good one.
Right? You think back, Mother Teresa's great, and Martin Luther King's great, and John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy. These are all good people. Yeah. But ain't nobody let somebody bang him into a hunk of wood on the cross and then goes, oh, you know what? I've been thinking about this. I think we'll just let it go, huh? Right? Yeah, just let it go. Wow.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah.
That's how you got to roll. I mean, you think about all the savagery that happens to people, and Mandela, prison for years, and gets out and goes, hey man, okay, it's time to party. You know, I'm not trying to fix the nation. You're like, wow.
And he did it.
Years, and he did. Yeah. You got him better, healthier, wiser.
Yeah.
Right?
And unfortunately, after he left, and what I find so interesting you bring him up. I'm going to just bunch of flood here thoughts. Have you been watching Comedians in Cars?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the one with Obama? Mm-hmm. Really good. And Seinfeld asked Obama about these leaders he's met, and he asked him, like, do you sometimes see one where you think, oh my gosh? And Obama said, yeah, now and then. He said that, in essence, from my recollection, what Obama was saying is anyone in power, they're going to lose it eventually over a period of time. It should be a short-lived thing. And Mandela said the same thing. Like, I think they wanted him to continue on. He said, in good health for the country, for all, I shouldn't do that.
The Incans used to put people on the hot seat and you'd scar your rear end. So anytime you felt like you should criticize the leader, you reach back and you touch the scars on your ass. Just so you remember. So what I try to tell everybody is, you know, if you're wise, you take the Lao Tzu philosophy, which is the great leader pushes, coerces, cajoles, encourages, and when they have all arrived at the destination the great leader had intended, wisely, the great leader remains totally silent. Just get them to get where they need to go. And try and live a servant's heart. I mean, all my life, you know, you just kind of, you got to be that, shepherd them along, right? Shepherd them along. And boy, don't look for recognition or approval. They're fleeting at best, right? And that was my favorite line from a kid. I said, well, you what? She goes, well, don't look for recognition or approval. They're fleeting at best. Then you got to look for, you know, try to do the best you can for everybody. Try to be a good person. I said, this kid's like really smart, right? And I go, how did you get this wise? And she goes, just a lot of sorrows. Yeah. Smart.
Yeah.
I think kids suffering through indignity and pain and sorrows and sadness are really good teachers. You know, I mean, if you're wise, I mean, I lost my father early. I had a lot of pain. My family drank heavily to try and deal with their grief, and then I had to drift away from that to find my true self. And I said, you know, when you realize that the Irish, throughout culture, have used alcohol as the number from their grief, and you realize what a bad, sad choice that is. And then what hit me was the irony of my deciding to work in comedy clubs while I was clean and sober, and everybody was on stimulants and depressants, and your job is to make them happy. There's a genius move.
Good career counseling.
Yeah, good career work, right? I think I'll go into the clubs where people are on stimulants and depressants, and they're all overstimulated till they crash into the wall on cocaine and then drunk, and I'll try to make them happy, right? Through laughter, and real laughter is very healing, right?
You're still a stand-up comic.
Still, I mean, I don't do it like I used to, but I still do it, you know, and I mean, you have to make people laugh, and you have to try and do what you can to help them understand life, right?
Do you have a routine that you do? Or
no, I mean, just what I'm doing right now, just talking. I mean, that's what I do when I get on stage. I mean,
if you do Throckmorton,
if I do Throck, yeah, I'll talk about this kind of stuff. You know, you gotta be able to talk. I mean, you know, you're thinking about, like the other day, I was quoting Richard Nixon. The last thing Richard Nixon said before he left office: there are people out there, and they will hate you, and they will only win if they get you to hate them back. Then you begin to destroy yourself. Gee, Dick, where were you for that memo in kindergarten? What comes around goes around. Right? Picture the insanity of that Macbeth, that, you know, Hamlet moment. Richard Nixon, in the one lucid moment, is leaving office, 74. That's one of the last things he says to his subordinates.
Wow.
There are people out there and they'll hate you. And they will only win if they get you to hate them back, because then you begin to destroy yourself. And he did. And he did. And then he was able to somewhat redeem himself.
Yeah.
You know? But what you see is that ultimate power can corrupt you absolutely. You know? If you read anything, and I read lots of stuff, I mean, Nixon was a sad, tragic figure.
Yeah.
He had all the power in the world, and he was in his second tour, right? He opened up China. He helped shift a lot of worlds, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, he tries to get Dick Helms to cover it up at the CIA, and Dick Helms says, no. No, I don't think so, Dick. No, we're not going to do that. No. That Dick, you and your guys, you're going to have to do, you and Eagle, Bud, Krug, and Coulson, and, Haldeman, you're going to have to take the heat for this. Sorry. And pretty soon, Dick is out of a job. He's out of power. And he's skulking in San Clemente, right? This is horrible. I could have done so much.
Now, what I find interesting, if you look at Dick and you look at Clinton, and from what I know of Dick's life, he had a very low self-esteem. He really, one of his challenges was a belief in himself. Right. And it seems to me like Clinton does not have that.
Well, he was, you got to understand, Nixon was a Quaker. He was raised not to be who he became. You're supposed to believe in peace. You're supposed to believe in the inner conflict being overcome by faith, love, kindness, compassion. And yet he was a conflicted soul who was very fearful, fear-driven, disliked and wanted to punish Kennedy and anybody who got in his way. Enemy list. He had an enemy list before, he learned the enemies list by hanging out with all the people that had enemy lists. Like Walter Winchell, Francis Cardinal Spellman, J. Edgar Hoover, Bobby Baker, who worked for Lyndon Johnson. They all had enemies lists. We'll go get them. And so if you're in politics and that's your job, you think you got to have an enemies list. You've already set yourself up for that last moment where Dick said, you'll destroy yourself. Yeah. Right? So with Bill Clinton, same thing. I mean, if you think the ultimate be-all, end-all for you is brilliant or cunning, a politician as you are, is that you have power over women to get what you want, you miss the point of your presidency, right? You can have it all, right? And not have respect for your daughter and wife, because your daughter and wife will be looking at you thinking, if I was a young intern, you'd be doing this to me. Right. And both of them would think that, You'd be manipulating me for your own sexual gain. And, that's just a sad thing. And I mean, I don't think of him as evil. I think of him as human. Yeah. I mean, you see that in Hollywood. That's the constant running theme. I'll get something, right? And there's no angelic resonance in that. That's, if you want to feel anything for them, just feel sorry. Because if you think you've been, and that's, if you look back and think about the irony of King David, same issue. He killed Bathsheba's husband.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To gain dominance over, and you're like going, dude, you had, seriously, the angels up there going, oh, no, don't do this, no, King David, no, no. But you got everything.
Instead of being brutally punished, he realizes his sins, is heartbroken by him,
yes.
and remains king.
Well, and because in that heartbreak, is the same heartbreak that if you look at St. Peter, I mean, the line is, God can do amazing, marvelous things with broken-hearted people. It's Peter having looked at Jesus Christ, and if you're just talking about historical Jesus, I'm not talking about religious Jesus. You know, Peter's down and he's just told his best friend and God, his Messiah, that he believes is his Messiah, that he doesn't know him.
Thrice.
And then he gets up and he becomes the rock of the church. God does amazing things with broken people. I see it in San Quentin. I see it in prisons. If you can redeem a soul who's broken in spirit, but it's, you know, like you said, it's the crack in the egg, man. It's the crack in the cosmic light. You can shift. I mean, I've seen people, you know, renew themselves and become something. And I'm not talking born again. I'm talking lit up, you know, a spark of humanity, right? And some of the greatest people that we know, I mean, they come back from the darkest times and they do amazing things. When you're trying to explain to, you know, one of my kids was looking at me the other day and said, do you realize that Dr. Martin Luther King lost his life on a weekend? He was down trying to stop. These young men had lost their lives. They were garbage workers. And the white man, wouldn't let them in the truck to get in out of the rain. And they were cold and they were wet. And they climbed under the claw of the crusher to get in out of the rain. And he turned it on and murdered them both. And that's what Dr. King said was wrong. That they weren't allowed to get in out of the rain. And they were crushed because they're just working class guys. And then that the company did nothing for their families. That's the injustice. And he knew that truth and love were sisters to justice. And he also knew that the best disinfectant is sunshine. So
That
he
the
went
what?
down.
The best?
Disinfectant. This is from Justice Louis Brandeis. I mean, one of the best Supreme Court justices. The best disinfectant is sunshine. He brought sunshine to the darkness that was in Memphis.
And got shot.
And got murdered. Yeah. Because it's, you know, darkness can have its day, but then the light becomes the President of the United States later on. Right?
Hope so.
Yeah.